Why co-stars are the hardest roles. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. And now on to our topic. Why co-stars are the hardest roles. Okay, if you haven't had your first major booking yet, maybe don't watch this video. I'm only half joking because today I'm going to unpack some of the reasons that day playing on a major set not only feels harder than it should be, but it actually is harder than it should be. And let me explain. I'll mainly approach this discussion by comparing the day player. You know, when your start, work, finish, you're only on set one day, you got a couple scenes maybe, or maybe it's just one or two lines, to the lead actor on the project, or at least someone who is on set for days or weeks at a time. And so the argument is that in many ways, the co-star, the day player, the under five role is harder than being the lead. And while it's certainly not as simple as that, let's talk about it. Because it's still baseball season, I want to use a baseball analogy to make this argument. So you have your starting lineup that plays all 9 innings. These are your star players, your lead actors. But every once in a while, usually in the later innings in the game, sometimes when you're only down a couple runs, or maybe you're up a couple, either way, you might bring in someone to pinch hit. It might be because the hitter they're replacing just wasn't producing the rest of the game, or they have a specialty like bunting, or they're really fast, etc. I won't get lost in the nitty-gritty of what an actual pinch hitter is, but in the analogy, consider that the day player. Now, in this analogy, both players train every day together. They are equals by most measures. In acting, while that is not usually the case, I have been on a fair number of sets where, as the day player, it is made clear to me that I have more training and experience than the lead actor who is at the top of the call sheet. So, controlling for this variable, let's just assume that in the rest of this discussion, the training between the lead actor and the day player is equivalent, that there's not this big gap in talent or experience or training. So when that pinch hitter comes into the game, let's say in the 8th inning, and the team is down 2 runs, all eyes are on them. There's a tension in the crowd, the home crowd, and even in the fellow players and the coaching staff. Are they going to crack under pressure, or are they going to produce a hit? Did I make the right decision by putting them in the game? Sound familiar? That's often the narrative we're telling ourselves when we are a day player, first day on set, only day on set, and we're wondering if we're in the right place. This is where imposter syndrome can creep in. Sometimes, well, hopefully all the time, it's just imagined in our heads. On occasion, and I've experienced this, it's actually verbalized by those in power. And so while that starting player, that lead actor, can flub their lines, can miss their mark with seemingly no consequences, you're expected to get a hit on your first at bat. And in baseball, that pinch hitter might have been sitting on the bench for 37 straight games when finally the coach is like, Cornwell, you're in, you're pinch hitting. Likewise, as the actor, it could be months or even years between bookings, or before your first major booking where you're finally getting that chance in the big leagues. So the pressure as a day player feels completely imbalanced, doesn't it? I mean, why is it that I have one day on set and yet it feels like the entire weight of the world is on me? And it doesn't look like that lead actor has any pressure. They're cutting up, they're messing up all over the place. Now, I am completely underselling how hard it is to be a lead. I get it, but I'm really just trying to make this video from the standpoint of the day player and how things are perceived from our perspective. So my apologies to all those famous lead actors who are watching this video. Okay, let's talk about another unfair advantage that leads have, which is that they have real knowledge of their character, of the storyline, of the world that's being built. As the day player, especially now that you sign an NDA and you rarely get a script for any project that you shoot, you're limited to surface knowledge of your character, of the scene, of the bigger story. And the implication of that is that when something changes on set, they decide to change some lines of dialogue or anything else of significance, it's a lot harder to pivot when you're the day player with only that surface knowledge. For example, a fellow actor told me a story, it's part of the reason I'm doing this video, of how they got to set one morning and all their lines had been changed. Completely new script. I once worked on a sitcom for, let's just call him Kirkwood Chocolate. And if you're a fan of the show Atlanta, you get the reference. And after doing a full dress rehearsal for the episode, Kirkwood decided he didn't like it and made the writers write an entirely new script by lunch. So I walked into taping that afternoon with a whole new set of lines, circumstances, etc. And see, in those circumstances, the leads have been on the field the whole time. They are used to these curveballs. They don't panic because they're immersed in the world. The character is infused into their bones because they've been sitting with that character and in this world for so long. They understand their character, their relationship to the other characters. So if you change a line of dialogue or a lot of dialogue, it's not as hard to pivot because you have all those other pieces in place. As a day player, I'm often not given any context as to even why my character or my scene exists in the first place. So if lines are changed, then it can become just a mechanical exercise in cramming new lines of dialogue into my head. Now, there's a lot more nuance to this part of the argument, but I just want to pause for a second and give all of you permission to be frustrated if you've experienced this. It's unfair to begin with that you were probably never provided the full script, even if you asked. It's even more unfair if they change everything at the last second and act like it's your fault if you're not ready for it. Now, this is where my pinch hitter analogy breaks down, because in baseball, if, despite all of these curveballs, you still hit the ball, well, then you're going to get a lot of kudos from your teammates. The fans are going to go nuts, especially if your team was down a couple runs and you've just now given hope to everyone for a comeback. On set, as a day player, if you do your job, you could very likely be ignored. You might not even get to meet the director your entire day on set. Yeah, that's happened to me a few times. But while that feels like an insult, it is actually a huge compliment. See, the director has 1,000 things pulling at them for their attention. And so if you show up and do the work and do your job and fulfill the duties of your role, then that's one less thing they have to worry about. They made the right choice in casting you. They will now feel good about it, and they will oftentimes forget to thank you or even acknowledge you because, again, they're now being pulled by those other 999 things that they do have to worry about, like a lead actor who can't remember their lines or hit their mark. Trust me, though, even though I intuitively know that it's a compliment, it still hurts when the director gives you no direction, doesn't even acknowledge your work or your existence, and doesn't give you thanks for helping them make their day. And I didn't misspeak. That's an industry term that's important for you to know. The first AD, the line producer, and anyone else whose job it is to keep the schedule and keep the production under budget is going to be concerned every day with making their day. That is to achieve what was set forth in the schedule that's on the call sheet without going into overtime, without pushing any work to tomorrow, essentially staying under budget. So if you're pinch hitting, save the day, help them make their day, well, then you should be hoisted on the cast and crew's shoulder and taken for a victory lap around the set. Alas, at most, you'll get a good job from your co-star and maybe a thank you from the director. And the pressure that comes with having to do your job so that they can make their day can make the day player role feel mechanical and less creative. I know I am susceptible to feeling that way. It can stunt my instinct to try something new in the moment, to have a sense of play. Meanwhile, the leads seem to be doing anything they want, just on a whim. Oh, and let me go back to the pinch hitting analogy one more time for a special case. Let's say you not only avoid striking out, even though everyone is expecting you to, but you actually hit a home run and win the game. On set, that might mean you nail that monologue that they just wrote for you in one take. Or that you handle impossible blocking, choreography, mild stunts, ornery props, weird wardrobe with ease and aplomb. Or maybe the lead actor just starts to improvise with you in the middle of the scene and you join in and you make the scene better. In those special cases, you will get acknowledged, you will get praise. Perhaps the lead actor turns to you and says, "Wow, that was really good. You're from Atlanta?" The subtext being, does anything good come out of Atlanta? Or the director might have the entire cast and crew give a round of applause when you're wrapped for the day. That's often a courtesy that's given to any actor who is rapping, but when you go above and beyond, when you help them make their day, and when you really hit that home run, you better believe they're going to take that moment to give you that round of applause. Okay, so even though that's the special case, I do have a call to action in this video. That is for you to be the home run hitter every time you get up to bat. That is every time you book and get on set for that day player or that bigger role. If you train hard and if you train not under ideal circumstances, then you will be ready for those curveballs. Did you know that Michael Phelps would purposely do things in his training like fill his goggles with water, which meant that when his goggles broke and water started to pour in during the 2008 Olympics, he didn't panic and actually placed first in the semifinal for the 200 meter. So please don't train with the same teacher in the same safe space, doing the same things week after week, month after month, year after year. And please don't do your self-tapes at home in that safe space with the same safe reader over and over and over again, especially as your opportunities are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Because if you keep trying to control those conditions to have a perfect environment for acting, then when you get on set, everything is going to feel like a curveball. Nothing is going to be as you expected. When you have 60 crew members all staring at you, when the blocking is different than you expected, when they change lines of dialogue, when everything could potentially be different, you won't be ready if you've been practicing in perfect, ideal circumstances. So if you have ambitions of being a great actor, if you dream of being on the red carpet or accepting that statue and giving an acceptance speech, you're never going to get there by being safe. So if you're watching this in late July of 2024 during one of the slowest years in recent memory, then maybe this is a perfect opportunity to look into starting some new training. Emphasis on the new, something different, something that feels dangerous, something that challenges you in anyway. It could be physical. You could take a dance class. It could be vocal. You could take a voice class or a singing class. You could take our Sam Christensen image process, which a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, are afraid to take because they think they're going to learn something they don't want to learn. Commit to yourself right now to do something different, to do something that makes you feel a little off balance, because you need to practice that way. You need to be ready for those less than ideal circumstances so that they don't surprise you so much when it happens on set. Because as I've laid out in this video, the entry-level roles, the co-stars, the ones that the name of the character is just an occupation, server, lawyer, cop, doctor, nurse, they are not easy. As we talked about in our I Wish Actors Knew series, it's not a spa day on set. This is work, and you will be challenged in those day player roles. And if you walk in thinking it's going to be a cakewalk, then you're going to be slapped in the face with reality. Because these co-stars, the one-liners, the three-liners, the five-liners, the one or two scenes, they are often some of the hardest roles on the call sheet. So there's no easing into them. You need to endeavor to be an all-star caliber player before you ever get a chance to pinch hit the first time, or before you get a chance to be on that major television or film set the first time, or the next time. Okay, so what have I missed? What are some other things that make these co-star roles seem harder than the lead roles? Even though, let's be honest, they're not. Lead roles come with their own huge set of burdens and responsibilities that I just didn't have time to cover in this video. But for the purposes of this argument, anything else that I missed, drop a comment below. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.